Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. I'm Max Chadwick alongside PJ Clark and Tate Sigworth. Now welcome on another very special guest, Connor Rogers, who's a host and NFL draft analyst at Bleacher. He also hosts the Badlands podcast and the Last So Mets podcast about the equally frustrating New York Mets. Connor, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Of course, guys. Yeah, it's a real blast when you do a show on a winless football team going into week 9. At least a baseball team that now has a $14 billion owner, so maybe things will get right there. But yeah, I'm sure people are really excited to hear from this guy that roots for the biggest losing teams.
Oh, we hear enough from PJ, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But of course, we're gonna play draft trivia with you. Only Trevor Sycamore from the Draft Network, he had a perfect 5 out of 5 score. Ben Solak, his coworker, got 4 out of 5. Then 3 different people, Austin Gale, Mike Renner, and John Ledyard, got 3 out of 5, which is the lowest score right now. So we'll see if you could time.
Oh man, I'm gonna be the 1 or 2 guy, aren't I? I might even do it on purpose just to be a real schmuck.
No, I'll tell you what the prize is if you get 3 out of 5. So
he's tanking for a good draft pick.
I'm the master of tanking. I've experienced it with every single team I root for. The Knicks are the only ones that fail to pull it off. The Rangers have done a good job. The Jets might actually do it right this year, and baseball. It is what it is.
Oh my God! So you're exactly PJ in every sport. You're exactly.
It is not a good life.
So first off, though, tell us about Bleacher Report. Like, how'd you get started in there and in sports media in general?
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty bizarre path in the career that I currently do. It almost doesn't feel real at times. I went to school thinking I was going to be – actually, I wanted to be an agent, to be honest with you. And after one semester of criminal justice, which I thought was a good prereq for law, I basically had a professor that was like, this is not like for most of you sitting in here. And I was like, he's right. So I switched to do business marketing. I was like, oh, if I can't be a sports agent, like maybe I'll make Nike ads, like always tying it back to sports. And then like 90% of those people just like sit in an accounting booth. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to make that clear, but that's just what happens, especially a business school like Albany. So I graduated from Albany with a marketing degree. And, I was kind of sitting there looking at my options and going like, okay, there's, sales jobs, marketing jobs. I'd interviewed for had a couple offers. And, essentially I had this connection where I got a couple interviews at Bleacher Report to be a research assistant, primarily working with, Chris Sims, Matt Miller, Adam Lefko, and then Steven Nelson came on board. And it's funny how everyone's at different paths now. Like Sims is doing Sunday Night Football pregame. Steven Nelson's on the MLB network. Like it's really, and Lefko is on freaking NBA on TNT. Like, so those are the guys that, I got to start working with as a kid essentially. And, when I took that job, I passed on a big difference in money because I'd rather try something that I really was interested in. And I think, my mom actually gave me the best advice, which was, it doesn't work, you could always go back to those things, but you can't go the other way. And, fortunately, a very, very, very long story summed up after some months of 6-hour commutes, because I didn't have enough money to move down to the city yet. And eventually I was able to do that and work my way up to a couple different producer roles. We started Stick to Football at Bleacher Report. And at the time, the draft podcast space really didn't exist. I mean, this is about 3.5 years ago. And, Daniel Jeremiah was doing Move the Sticks at NFL Network. And then it was us. And it was that space really opened up in the last 5 years. Like everybody knew Mel Kiper growing up and Todd McShay. And now it's like every outlet has a draft guy. And that's because the demand is there. Like people eat up draft content. So I was really fortunate that people took, really well to Stick to Football. They loved it. And I sat there and said, hey, I consider myself to be, I think I could be one of the top draft analysts. Had some really, really small opportunities to maybe get internships in the NFL. And at the time it was like a pay cut that number one, I believed in myself and media. And number two, like making that jump to the NFL just wasn't the right timing if that opportunity really did present itself. So, it's kind of a long story, but at the same time, to be able to be doing this, I like to consider that I'm now the go-to guy for the draft at Bleacher Report before I'm even 30. It's exciting, and it's been a crazy ride, and I expect it to get a lot more turbulent along the way.
So that's really exciting, but I hate to go on a somber note, but we all here love stick to football, and obviously with Matt leaving, that will be ending as well. What did Matt Miller? What did he mean to you? What did that podcast mean to you? And then you said you're maybe be the lead draft guy at Bleacher Report now. Like, what can you give us about your future at Bleacher Report?
Yeah, not a ton right now, and hopefully those details work themselves out. That's, the world we're in, where you kind of just have to be patient and see where it goes. But I believe that, after fortunately being moved up to the main desk the last 2 years, I would assume, that's going to continue again, where hopefully, people will come back to us doing draft grades for all 3 days of the draft and covering almost every pick and giving that instant analysis. Let me tell you, when that pick comes in and you have about 8 to 12 seconds to think of the player, the scheme fit with the team, and how you want to grade it and how you want to present it to the audience, it's a blast. I love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So hopefully, I fully expect that, we'll hopefully be continuing that trend with or without Matt, wherever his future takes him. And of course, it's somber that Stick to Football is ending. I think it was the first big thing I really did in my sports media career that was front facing, right, to the audience, where you sit there and like people are reaching out to you and be like, hey, you said this on the show, or you said this, or I want to know this. And I think that was special to me. And it was so consistent, right? It was like once a week, then it was twice a week, then it was 3 times a week. And then it was like, I'm on the road 12 weeks last year for college football and NFL football. Which is, I love it, right? Like I had a weekly schedule where it's like, I'm going to Newark Airport on Friday and I'll see where life takes me. And then I'll come back Sunday and watch the Jets lose. And then I'll go into work Monday and go back in the studio. And like that, you're just going. And when it's Christmas, then I get to sit on the couch and have some beers and, see my parents. But, yeah, so I mean, me and Matt got to make something special. And I think that is something that we will never forget. I think the audience won't ever forget it. But at the same time, I'm one of those people that like is just so forward thinking that I can't wait to see what's next at Bleacher Report, because they've always granted us, the opportunity to keep making great stuff with a focus on the draft. And I think we'll bring people back or keep the people that we have there excited for our coverage and to see where it goes.
So I want to pivot off of that. The story of the 2021 NFL draft at this point is our beloved New York Jets. I don't even know, I don't even know what I want to ask. Can we just vent about the Jets for a couple of minutes? Where do you think this is going? Like, what is up? What is your current take on the state of affairs in Florida Park?
Tate and I log off now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, number one, I've said this since like one of the first episodes of Stick to Football. My theory, and I think a lot of teams are starting to think this way, when for a very long time in the NFL they didn't. You never want to be treading water, right? You never want to be in the middle. You want to be a team that you think can compete for a Super Bowl or is rebuilding to get to that window, or you want to be the worst of the worst. There's no really in between. Now, the New York Jets problem for about 10 years has been that they are the latter, right? You look at them and they are a team that is picking 6th every year. And I always go back to, because a lot of people sit there and go, well, they had their chance and they blew it with Darnold. It's like, well, the problem is they traded to get from 6 to 3 to get Darnold and gave up the rest of their drafts, areas you want to get starting players to put around him, 3 second-round picks. And we've seen it play out the way you expect it to, right? There's no supporting cast. So the Jets were really, and I'm not giving excuses. The Jets, the McCagnon era, the Itzig era, they've made unbelievable mistakes and Joe Douglas has made mistakes, but he's also made some good moves. So, listen, hiring Adam Gase was, and there's a tweet out there that says it somewhere for me, it's impossible to sell to the fan base. He failed in Miami, and you're in New York. Like, you don't do that. You don't hire the Dolphins cast-off coach. Like, it's not the New York that I know. But I think when you look at it, and I try to tell people this, I'm like, I'll never tell you how to root for the New York Jets, but how I root for the New York Jets is somebody that tries to look at a league-wide picture. Lose every game if that's what it takes to pick number 1. You take Trevor Lawrence. And you have to realize too, and this is like really messed up to say, like I interview players. I've been around. I love players and I'm always pro player. But on the team building side of it too, I can strip away the emotion of like, we haven't seen it from Sam Darnold in 3 years. And a lot of that's not his fault, but some of it is. And the end of the day, you could take a once-in-a-decade prospect and build the team the way you want to build it for 4 years on a rookie quarterback contract, and it's an easy sell to any head coaching candidate, or you could take someone that's quite broken from Adam Gase and try to sell that to a head coaching candidate. Good luck. You won't, because the Jets are toxic. And it just is what it is, right? That's how I look at it, where you're going into an era where fans are going to have to accept that this team is picking number 1 overall. It will be the Trevor Lawrence era. Sam Darnold will be traded, and, you're going to be moving into an actual era where you have hope, because I think we've seen Joe Douglas is a guy that wants to accumulate more first-round picks, more day 2 picks, and actually fill out a football team which the Jets have not had in quite some time.
So going off of that, you said Trevor is going to be an easy sell for any head coach. Who do you want at this point? Because I know there's a lot of Arthur Smith talk. I'd be in on that. My guy is Matt Campbell, who I'm not even sure leaves, who spurned the Jets 2 years ago, didn't even want to take an interview. But who do you have your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, this is an easy one for me because we were just doing this 2 years ago, and my list hasn't changed, right? Like, a lot of the guys didn't really move into jobs where they're impossible to get. Now, I'm with you. For me, it's always been Matt Campbell. They checked in on Matt Campbell 2 years ago, and he said, "I'm good here. He's not a guy." You got to realize with a Midwest guy, they're not always looking to make the move to a very, I don't want to say hostile, but a difficult place like New York media, where things have not gone right in a long time, when things are pretty comfortable at Iowa State. Now, at the same time, is there a point where a coach believes they've probably peaked at a place like Iowa State? It's not Ohio State where he's recruiting 1,000,000 5-stars every year. You do top out eventually. That happened to Matt Rule. Like, Matt Rule did a great job at Temple, did a great job at Baylor, and then sat there and said, kind of done everything I can here. Like, maybe we could win the Big 12, but do I think we're going to win a national title? It never really looked like it. And those things are often out of your hands at that point. So I do wonder if Matt Campbell changes his mind. Everything I know is that he won't, but that would be my number 1 choice. I'm still on the Todd Monken hype train. He kind of got buried in Cleveland. They should have hired him 2 years ago. He wanted the job. Should have hired Matt Rule 2 years ago. He wanted the job. Like, Matt Rule's the one that's gone, right? You look at all the candidates from last time. Rule's the one that he's in Carolina. It's over. Campbell, you can call again. Monken, you can call again. He's doing a good job at Georgia. Bieniemy, you can call again. You interviewed him. Heard he was well liked. People were just not calling the plays. Whether you agree with that or not, that's how it was. So I kind of sit here and go, I like grabbing a guy from the college ranks. And Monken has rebuilt programs as a head coach before, so I don't really have the concern with that caveat. Coordinators scare me. You've seen it, and not all of them are like this, but you saw Todd Bowles, probably the best defensive coordinator in the league at the time, did not excel as a head coach, and I know people are coming up with all these reasons why he struggled as a head coach. It's really that simple. Maybe Todd gets a second chance and does a really good job, but Arthur Smith is one of the creative play callers in the league. I like Brian Dable is in that regard, and especially if you look for matches with Trevor Lawrence. Dable's a guy that learned a lot in New England and Alabama, took it to Buffalo, built Josh Allen up, and has a good personnel group to work with. But he did develop Josh Allen, so I think Dable is somebody that I wouldn't be against, hiring. So it's. I'm not crazy about coordinators. I think the Baltimore guys are going to get looks. Martindale, the defensive coordinator, is very well liked. Greg Roman has done a really good job with Lamar Jackson and is really well liked. So I lean the college side. The last one I'll throw out there is not a route I would go, but Woody Johnson is fascinated with Jim Harbaugh. He always has been. They did check in on him a couple years ago, and he said, "No, I'm good at Michigan." Now, you get that with like every college coach. Lincoln Riley has told teams, "I'm good at Oklahoma." Matt Campbell, "I'm good at Iowa State." I see people like tweeting about Ryan Day and Dabo Swinney. They are not leaving Ohio State and Clemson. I don't care if like Jesus was the number 1 overall pick. Like, it's not. It's just.
Is,
maybe I'm yeah, right. Maybe he is. And maybe I'm wrong there, and you see some kind of crazy like Nick Saban scenario. But I don't see those guys leaving. I'm not going to discuss them very long. So I think that's where it stands right now with the Jets and their coaching search halfway through the NFL season.
All right, last question on our bad baseball teams and football teams before we move on. What do you think you and PJ would do if the Mets and Jets were actually good? And like, do you even want them to be good?
So it's funny. I do think like what the Jets being so bad has helped my career.
Yeah,
because
this is what I tell everybody. It is so much more fun to be bad. It is so much more fun to be bad.
I have this conversation because my dad always wants the Jets to win. Like even the Denver game, he's like die hard at the end of the game, like rooting for them to win. And and it was one of the games I got to be home for this year. I've been home a lot more because of the pandemic. It's been weird. And I just sit there like emotionless on the couch because I'm like, this team sucks and like I don't want them to win. And it seemed people will call it an agenda, and it's not. But like the Jets being bad and their draft mattering so much, coinciding when I graduated college in 2014, and like the Jets are predominantly in the draft conversation since then. Where I'm a draft guy that also has done a lot of Jet stuff, and it's helped. And now I would like them to be good eventually. Like, and it's not from a fan perspective. It's from like can we talk about the foot? Like, I want to watch film each week and be like, oh, Trevor Lawrence, throwing a 50-yard bomb to Rashad Bateman or Denzel Mims, and it's like, wow, that's exciting. Like, we're not talking about the 2024 draft. So in week 4, and so it has. I would be lying if I said it hasn't helped, but the Mets are a totally different thing. I want the Mets to be good. I went to a lot of games in 2015, including a World Series game. The energy at Citi Field and the energy in New York, even on the subways, from Yankee fans or from Met fans, is electric. The Mets being good is good for baseball and it's good for New York, and in a different way than like the Jets. Like the Mets really matter for baseball. They really do, because you don't want just the Yankees being like, it's great for New York City, and New York sports are a disaster right now. So the Mets, I have no interest in like the whole rebuilding thing. On the That's the Mets podcast, my co-host Joe DeMeo is a draft guy, but I'm not an MLB draft guy. Like, just draft well, but sign free agents and make good trades and put a winning product. The NFL, I look at everything through a rebuilding lens where it's like, okay, like, I like to sit there and play GM year after year.
So walk me through that, because we're in the process right now. We're building our own big boards right now. And man, there are so many freaking college football players. It's ridiculous. So like, how do you kind of keep track of all that? Any like scouting tips or things that you do to try to just keep track of basically everyone in the country?
Yeah, it's difficult, right? And it changes year after year, because I have a pretty standard process where, number one, I'm not like a media member that is required to be putting out a big board in August and September and October, and then it looks completely different from the start. And like, some people like watching those changes. I just don't believe in that. And if somebody asked me, even if it was Bleacher Report, like, hey, can you release a big board every month? I would do it. But I would be very open and sit here and tell you the guys I have in August are not always going to be the guys that I have in November. And because they're 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, they're getting better. Like, there is change a lot. It's not like the NFL. So the way I do it, I have somewhat of a system down where it's like, you go through the draft, you do grades for 2 weeks, and then it's hard for me to cool off or ramp down right away then. So I'll take a little look at some next year guys like in May. Then in June, I'll really cool off. I'll either go away for 2 weeks, not really do Twitter, do no film. And then in July, I start usually to get through the projected top 100, right? And I don't watch every game of 100 guys. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, but I try to get a good feel for the top 100 players and start building a list where there's a million guys on it that I don't watch. And then when you get into the season, it's changed for me, because when I was on the road every week, I had the same system down, and this is very tiring, by the way, where I'd fly out Friday, I would go to a game Saturday, and, I'd go down on the field before the game and try to see the guys I want to see. And then I would try to watch some games at night, depending if we were at a day game, if we were at a night game, vice versa. I'd fly home Sunday. If I can get a 5:30 a.m. flight, I would take it. I'm a psycho like that, too. I hate lingering in places. I would get home as early as I could back in Jersey and try to watch NFL. And then when the NFL ramps down Sunday night, I have a system that records most of the games, and I could check out what I want to check out that I missed on Saturday because I was on the road. Now, I haven't had to do that this year because I haven't been on the road, so it's been a little more chill, where it's like, okay, cool, I could like watch a bunch of Saturday games. But the big thing is, don't just press. Like, all these people think like I need to react to every little thing in October. Like January, February, and March, and even April. Like last year, there was guys I was watching the week of the draft to fit in the board. Like, you have the time you just got to make a system that works for you. Some people like to get themselves crazy during the season, and a lot of those people burn out in the spring. And I have learned not to do that. So I just take it slow and steady. And I always look at it like after New Year's, I wake up and I'm like, it's time where I sit and I'm going to just watch players over and over again. And I'll literally tell people like, hey, I have to watch players for like 3 hours. Like I can't, jump on. It's not like blowing off calls, but it's things like that. So it's just a system that you get used to. You'll figure out what works for you. But the best advice I can give is like, make an Excel sheet that works for you, that you know how to navigate, right? Like I know, and I don't share a private Excel sheet to the public because there might be character things in there. There might be anything where it's just like, I don't feel like the public should have my private Excel sheet, but I'll make a public one for rankings and all that stuff. Make an Excel sheet that works for you, that you know how to navigate. Sometimes I use colors, like whether it's injury or color-coded system. And sure, it might have like 300 players in it, but you can jump from one way or the other very, very easily. And by the time the draft comes around, you'll be able to cross off and navigate, and it'll work itself out.
Sure. That's good to know, because we are going through all of these games and I am struggling. But as we sit here, we are 175 days out from the 2021 NFL draft. So you said you've been home a lot more. You've been able to take it easier on Saturdays, watch more games. What are your early thoughts outside of, Jesus may be the number 1 overall pick?
Well, I think Justin Fields looks healthy, right? And I think what a lot of people didn't realize with Fields is that when him and Lawrence were coming out, they were like a 1A and 1B. And everybody kind of jumped on the Lawrence is like, the next coming of Christ because he got to play. And Lawrence has been phenomenal. Let me make that clear. Lawrence is the best player. Lawrence was, the offensive MVP of a championship game when he was a freshman, a true freshman, like just unheard of things. Fields, unfortunately, it didn't work out in Georgia, and then he had to transfer, and then he gets on the field at Ohio State, and you're like, okay, he's really good. And then it's like, well, he also looks a little banged up, and he's also developing. He hasn't been on the field. And then, now the beginning of this year, it's like, okay, everything is just, and, he's been working really hard in the offseason with Quincy Avery, and who is now training Trey Lance and Jamie Newman for the draft. So, Quincy does a great job, and you could see it work out with Fields, how mechanically sound he looks, how calm he looks. And I think that's been the most noteworthy thing to me where, there was a lot of summer hype for Trey Lance, and I don't disagree with it. But I think for me, I will have Justin Fields as the second-rated quarterback in this draft, not Trey Lance. And we'll see, I feel like I've gotten everything I need to go through to make that determination because Lance doesn't have any football left. And there's some crazy character things that come up and make you change your rankings. I don't foresee any of those with those two guys. Super great leaders and people and, exciting players to build a franchise around. So that's been number 1. I'm trying to think of some surprises here as I look at my sheet. There's really been like nothing overwhelmingly crazy to me where I'm sitting there. I'll say J.C. Horn has been a guy that it's like, oh, like we spent the whole summer talking about Surtain and Caleb Farley's not playing and Sean Wade and then J.C. Horn's like balling out every week. So to see a physical corner that can play the ball like that is really exciting. Kadarius Toney from Florida is,
that's my guy.
For about 3 years, you're sitting there and going, why isn't it working out in the way that, we expect? And then now you're sitting there and going, okay, the offense looks good. He looks good. Explosive, fits the NFL mold. Those undersized guys are a little protected by the rules in today's game, which is really good. And they just went over the top, right? And they also went underneath because they can make guys miss. So Kadarius Toney has done a really good job. Elijah Moore in the same mold from Ole Miss, having that connection with Matt Corral, who's having a nice year. So those are the ones where I'm like, okay, these guys, I don't want to say they came out of completely nowhere, but they've made really, really big strides. The top guys, though, are the top guys. I think Quincy Roche from the transfer, he was at Temple, 26 sacks in 3 years at Temple, transfers to Miami. It's just the film's phenomenal right now. 2.5 sacks in the year, but just pressuring the quarterback nonstop. Jalen Phillips is a little raw on the other side of him, but looks really good. It makes you wonder what that would have looked like with Rousseau on that unit as well. So, those are a couple of guys that have had some really nice jumps and I think are playing their way up draft boards already in this very early season.
So everyone knows Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, like you mentioned. They're the top 3 quarterbacks in this year's class. But the QB4 conversation has been really interesting. Brock Purdy and like Jamie Newman were some guys that were being thrown out in the preseason. But now Zach Wilson and Mac Jones are playing their way into that QB4 spot. What do you make of the QB4 competition?
Yeah, it's interesting. Coming into the year, I had Kyle Trask in that spot. You had some Tanner Morgan talk, although, it's obviously that's trending the other way. I think I would say Zach Wilson's the guy there, and it's only getting better week after week. I'm not as high on Mac Jones right now as the world appears to be.
Honor.
Listen, man, and he's fine. He really is, and the touch throws down the field have been really, really good. You look at the way these top 4 guys move in and out of the pocket, and he doesn't do that. And it's the way the league's going. And, I'm not saying he doesn't have starter potential. I'm not saying he's not a top 2 round pick. I'm just saying it's not a conversation for me at the moment. When you look at how these guys win, and Wilson's polarizing because Wilson wasn't very good last year. And he has all the tools and traits, and it's just such an exciting player when you're like 6'1" or 6'2", and you're just, the flick of the wrist kind of throws down the field, even on the drops. And they've played some bad teams. He's beat up on some bad teams, but he looks like a prize fighter going against amateurs out there at times with the skill set. So, it's good for Mac Jones. I'm not writing him off, and I think that, in that system, he's doing a lot of really good things. Most notably, the deep throws, throwing the ball down the field. But I'm gonna cool off on getting him into the top 4 right now.
So where are you on Trask then? If he was your preseason, you think up or down, just on the virtue of Wilson going up, or how do you?
Yeah, I'd have him at 5.
I was on Florida before this season, so I'm curious as to your thoughts.
Yeah, I was very high on Trask. We kind of wrote him in ink as QB4 coming into the year because everybody was like, oh, there's this revolving door at QB4. And I was like, not really. I think it's Trask, and it's pretty clear. I think Wilson has had a rise that, quite frankly, I didn't see anybody discussing coming into this year. And, so I would put him at QB4 and then Trask at 5. And Trask hasn't done anything wrong. It's just a matter of, it kind of goes back to my conversation of, what kind of player are you looking for? I think with Trask, the feel in the pocket has been pretty good. Is he this incredible toolsy athlete? No, he's not. And, you often don't take those guys with top 10 picks. Now, Florida's offense has been phenomenal. Tony and Pitts are 2 of the best skill guys, 2 of the biggest rising skill guys in this group. So I would have it where it's Lawrence, Fields, Lance, Wilson, and Trask. And I think, you got Lawrence, you got Fields and Lance are pretty close, and then Wilson and Trask are pretty close.
Oh my God, I feel like we're talking to PJ right now. You're a
I like
Mets
that.
fan.
This is exactly.
You love Trask.
This is what I preach.
Oh,
I do not love Trask. I want to say that right now. I think I like Trask.
Which PJ is also.
I'm not a Mac guy.
I have Trask in the 30s. I'm not touting Kyle Trask as a top 10 pick either, but he's good. That's just my take. That's all I got.
You're the same person. All right, so you mentioned some risers earlier. Who are your biggest fallers, would you say, after the few games we've had this year?
Oh man, that's tough. I always am. It's the thing I struggle with the most when we used to do it on the show. We used to do stock down, and it's like, man, I don't want to be the guy that reacts to 1 week of bad football. But I think I'll put it like this. I'm looking at my sheet right now, and I think it's not necessarily his fault, but I think a lot of people wanted Chuba Hubbard to be a special prospect, and I don't think he is. I think he's a good one, and I think when you play that position, he has track speed. Duh. He literally has track speed, and he's a good all-around runner, and I think the vision's pretty good. I just don't see the level at the level of physicality at the second level that we see from Etienne and Harris. And, when you're a running back, you just can't afford to have those little knocks in your game, or else you're going in the 2nd or 3rd round, and that's good for a running back these days. Look at the running backs that go in those rounds over and over again. So I wouldn't say Chuba's necessarily this big stock down. It's just that you look at him and you go, Would I value him as a top 50 player? I don't know if I would. And I think in the right scheme, especially like an outside zone scheme that you feel your line is built, he could be a really good player because he has big playability, explosive playability. But if you're a team that needs somebody that completely creates yards after contact on his own, which is what a lot of the teams that need running backs essentially are, I don't know if you use a premium selection on him. So it's not like I'm anti Chuba Hubbard. It's more or less just that you sit there and go, man, I don't think teams will value him the way that the college football world has in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of some other guys. It's, there hasn't really been we haven't seen this gigantic fall. I'm still waiting for it with Shaun Wade, to be honest with you. My question with Wade is, and everybody says this, like, can he play on the outside? And I'm like, well, all the physical tools are there for him to play on the outside. We just haven't had the opportunity. I don't think he's a round one corner right now. Now, if you're drafting off tools, which it's crazy to say that because we just had a draft where, Terrell and Arnett went in round one. And quite frankly, neither had any business going in round one. So corners go round one as reaches year after year. And I'm not even saying Wade would be a reach. I'm just saying you're betting on the tools right now because it is not completely displayed itself on the field as an outside corner. If you're drafting him day one to be your slot, we saw the Dolphins do this with Noah Igbenogany last year in round one. Not a lot of teams do that, right? I remember the Jets actually did it with Kyle Wilson. They're like, okay, if we get a slot corner that's a top player, we'll be lights out in the secondary. The Dolphins are thinking that with Igbenogany. So that's the thought process there. I don't think a team will do that with Shaun Wade. I think they will draft him to be a top 2 corner as a rookie, and we need to see a little bit more.
You just brought up Kyle Wilson. That was a lot of childhood trauma just brought back up there. So as we told you before we started this, the three of us, we go to Syracuse. Syracuse has some NFL prospects, football powerhouse, Syracuse.
Shockingly.
Has a couple, an NFL secondary. So you tweeted last night, Trill Williams opted out literally last night. I saw you tweet about that. Andre Cisco, potentially a first-round guy, and Ife Melifonwu. What do you got on the Cuse boys? Just curious.
I actually really liked them coming into the year. I think Cisco is one of those guys that finds the ball and likes the big play, right? And feast or famine safeties can go a couple different ways in the NFL, but I think he's somebody that an NFL coaching staff can dial it back in. And if you give him the freedom to roam on the back end, he has the range to play in single high coverage. If you want him to sit in a cover 2 shell, I think you can get that discipline down and be a responsible player. So I like Cisco. What I like about these guys the most is that they're really good athletes on the back end. Mm-hmm. And when you look at, not calling them a small school program, but calling them a program where you're not looking for powerhouse players.
It's fine.
Year after year, you always want to make sure the athleticism, checks every box. And I think with both of them, it does. I think with Trill, what I like the most is you don't see a lot of big guys like that do really well in the slot, and I think he's shown that he can survive in the slot, and I think his transition to the outside won't be a problem as well, as he's had starting reps there. Size and speed with Trill, 2 things that, a lot of NFL teams, with the Colts actually have this trend since Ballard came in. They usually don't draft corners that are under like 6'1", 6'1.5" tall, and I think with Trill, it's one of those things where can he turn and run? Yeah, he can. Does he have the size? Yeah. Can he get, can you work him in press coverage? Probably. So I'm a fan. I wasn't ready for that declaration. I think he saw a teammate get hurt and said, I'm done. And I respect that. It's somebody, though, that I need to dive into the tape from this year and come out with an evaluation, because I came away from summer tape, probably having him in the 3rd round if things went pretty well this year. And it seems like overall they did. Like I said, size and speed is something that plays at corner. And if you think you can coach him up in the technique a little bit, he could be a good one. And I think with Cisco, it's a shame, right, how things played out, because, he as a safety, it's hard to go round one, number one. Antoine Winfield went round 2 last year, just to show you how difficult things are. But Cisco has the ball skills and the range and the scheme versatility to be a top 75 pick. Now, you got to get healthy. Like I said, discipline will be a question mark, but they have a good group there in Syracuse in the secondary. Somebody, I don't know who it is, but some recruiting coordinator was doing a really good job getting those guys to come in there.
So we always like to ask our guests this question. Back in the spring, we did our own combine and had varying results, to say the least. We did a 40, we did a broad jump, we did a 3-cone, and then we did a long throw. What do you think your results would be if you were to do those events?
It's a great question. Wait, did you guys all run under a 6 in the 40?
Oh God, no.
Oh,
Well,
God.
okay,
Yeah,
so
Connor.
we had the low end was a 5-1, and then the high end was like 6-4, I think.
5-1 is moving.
Who do you think did it? So we always like to ask this too. Like, so use your scouting eye for us. Judge a book by its cover.
Hold
Who do
on,
you think
we
had
haven't
the best
even
scores?
the long throw was 47 yards, and then the short one was, get ready for this, 19 yards on the longest throw for a football.
And
So
this
you can
is
take that
publicized
information
on
as
the
you will.
internet.
So
This
who would
is
you pick?
published.
Who would you say had the worst? Because obviously there's a clear 1, 2, and 3 basically. Where
So
would you rank us?
my only take is I think PJ ran the best and threw the worst.
Okay,
Wow.
I'll take
Wow.
that. I was in the middle on both. Tate is going to be very mad, but I'll take
Okay.
that.
So it's PJ's
That's
number
tough.
2. Between me and Tate, Connor, who would you say is the best athlete at Boom or Bust?
Oh man, this is going to be disrespectful either way I answer. I don't want to do that. I'll talk about I'll make fun of myself a little bit. Can you tell me first before I get into
No.
that?
You got to tell us. You got to. Everyone else has done it. We do not care at all.
Wait,
trust me.
and it went like, okay.
Oh
It
yeah,
went-
somebody
there's a
won
clear
everything.
best
I
athlete,
came in second at everything. Yeah.
Wow, that's
It's a pretty clear 1, 2, 3.
okay. I'm gonna say, Tate. I'm gonna say you were the loser. I'm sorry.
Whoa.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Was I right?
No, not at all.
Oh
Tate
shit.
is going to be very, very sad. That just made my day. Oh
Wow.
my God.
God.
I'm
That
sorry,
is
All right,
Tate.
Connor,
Forgive
I'll
me.
remember that. I'm going to remember
Yeah,
that.
it's okay. Wow, you threw 47 yards.
Yeah, Tate, former quarterback. Tate,
Oh wow, all right. Listen, I can only see faces. I can't body type scout right now. This is difficult. I don't know how tall anyone is. I don't know how strong anyone is.
When you look at the faces, what you like? Okay, this guy because of this. Because I thought PJ's glasses, you'd be like, oh, this guy's a nerd. He got his head shoved in the toilet in high school.
No, to be honest with you, I really had no takes. That's why I didn't want to answer. It's hard. I figured I'm like, okay, PJ is probably like the lightest and the quickest, but also probably not the guy that's throwing the ball 47 yards.
you're right about the lightest
That's fair.
part. So that's fair.
Yeah,
that was a fair assumption.
Okay.
That was a fair
wow.
assumption.
All right. Well, I was wrong.
So what do
Tate,
you
I'm
what do you
sorry.
got? What do you got on your scores? Where do you think you would end up?
You know, I swear this spring I'm gonna run a 40 because people ask me this so much, and I have no idea. I think I'm still very fast. I would probably be the worst out of all of us throwing a football. Like my shoulders have nothing left in
I don't
the
know.
tank.
19 yards.
Dude, I'm telling you, my shoulders are destroyed. I think I could throw further than 19 yards, but it's not a given. I want to say that.
I had a lot working
Wow.
against me, Connor, too. All
He's
right,
honest.
NFL football deflated, and it was raining out, so I had a lot.
Oh, okay.
Sam
Yeah,
Darnold. It was Sam Darnold's pro day, basically.
I'm telling you, I could not. I'd be terrible amongst us throwing. I think I run under a 5-1. And everybody says that, and I'm like, you don't realize how fast under 5 is?
Yeah, and 40 yards is
No, it's
further
flying.
than you.
Like a 4.9 is flying.
Yeah.
A 4.7 is moving. I would say like peak shape. I want to believe I could do a 4.75, but right now, I don't know. I need to find out because it's everybody asks me this, and I'm just like, no, people don't realize how slow they are.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think I'm still pretty fast. So
Okay.
and then what
That's
were the
fair.
other 3-cone?
3-cone, yeah.
Cone.
Would have no idea. I am good change of direction, but not like NFL
Faster or
good.
slower than DK Metcalf?
Well, yeah.
I could do it faster than DK Metcalf.
Okay,
I never
that's
understand that.
the line.
So
So did Tate. So that
Tate did the timing, and Tate actually had a better 3-cone than the average NFL player, if you could believe that.
I mean, Tate's this like marvelous athlete that I didn't expect at all. Like we
You
might be
didn't
able to
think
get
so.
Tate. We might be able to get Tate an XFL tryout. I'm starting to think.
yeah, but you didn't. Yeah, but honestly,
Tate does have. Listen, the entire secondary is leaving for Syracuse this year. Tate has 4 years of eligibility left. I'm just saying,
But-
somebody pay attention.
But Connor, we can't get him a tryout because, like you just did, like you looked at him, you're like, no, this kid sucks. And
I only see the face.
you both passed the eye test. He doesn't pass the eye. I passed the eye test. I'll get a tryout. Give me a tryout.
I mean, it was a complete
Max.
guess.
Yes,
To be
Max.
fair, I was actually
it
as
wasn't
wrong
a
as
guess. It wasn't
wrong.
a
I
guess.
said PJ was the fastest but the worst throw, and he wasn't either of those.
No, Tate's the worst athlete now. I love it.
Tate's the worst athlete. That's why.
I will record it. So like there's no BS. Like people are
Yeah,
like,
no,
I
that's
could run
what we're
a
doing.
40. I'm just gonna record it.
Yeah.
I
Where
can
we
box
getting
jump
into
like 50
shape?
inches. So I think the
Oh,
vert would be nice.
That is
So
impressive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's on my IG. If anyone thinks I'm lying, I could literally that jumping is not hard for me. Now throwing or I don't know 40, man. I just build up speed. I don't know. 40's tough, man. It's all about your start, and I don't think mine would be very good.
What about we might do a field goal kicking competition too, like the longest field goal.
Terrible.
Like
terrible.
Never
played soccer ever. Awful.
Not even extra point or anything like that.
I think I could make an extra point.
Okay.
But if on a tee, I can make an extra point.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Like punting.
That's fair.
No, not punting. Not punting.
I love it.
It's either punting to me, I'm telling you, is either something you could do or you can't. Like one of my friends I grew up with that played soccer, when we would play pickup football or anything, they could just punt really, really far because they're just natural at it. But I know people that played football their entire lives and they could punt 20 yards. It's just you can either do it or you can't. There's no hey, let me practice for 20 days on my punting.
All right, so we have one last question for you. So I have a bet with our followers, subscribers.
Hey, you guys didn't bench?
No.
Oh God, no, we didn't bench. I know that's.
Look at us.
Connor,
you guys have to just lower the weight.
We're so
I weigh
skinny.
125 pounds, Connor. It's not going to happen.
This is a very modest group, which is
we're gonna bench PJ.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
we have to
just put on 135 and count it that way.
Which is PJ.
That weighs
You're right
more
off the
than
light.
I do.
You could do it. You can work on that. It's not like punting. You can practice.
Oh,
work on it for the spring.
That's what we have to do. By April, I guess we have to figure out how to bench now. I guess that gauntlet has been thrown.
Yeah,
we'll do 135 as the judgment, so everybody can get involved.
If I could get one rep at above my own weight, I think that would be the most impressive thing I've done in my life.
Yeah.
I think that would be huge for me.
Get in that Syracuse Rec Center. Start light. Work your way up.
We'll do it.
Right.
We'll do it. So
we'll do it.
Last question. I have a bet with our followers, subscribers, and our guests. It was if Lawrence goes first, I'd win the bet, right? But that's way too easy now because of your Jets, making it pretty much a given. The bet is now.
I say that Jacksonville, we might lose to the Patriots on Monday. This is not over yet. I'm not cashing this ticket.
No, it's almost over. But look, now that was too easy for me. So now the bet is now I'm going to guess every first-round pick. The thing is, there's a smoothie that all of our guests, followers, subscribers are contributing to. They contribute one ingredient. Every first-round pick I get wrong, I have to take a swig of that smoothie. So let me tell you some of the ingredients we have. Austin Gale said absinthe. Mike Renner said Malort's, which is a horrible brand of Chicago liquor. John Ledyard said a couple eggs. Trevor Sycamore, Old Bay seasoning, and Ben Solak contributed kombucha. So what would you like to contribute to that smoothie?
Ben would do kombucha. Oh, my goodness. And Austin and Mike would contribute the liquor. It's I know all of these people very, very well. Wow. Okay, so knowing the ingredients, I'm not going to give you more booze because it's just too easy.
Please.
It's not actually going to mix anyway, so that wouldn't work.
Max, he's going to be blackout drunk by the end of the first round.
But I didn't pick 5, Tate.
Wow. Oh, okay. Here's mine. Apple cider vinegar.
Oh,
wow.
I like that one.
Basically booze. It's going to taste the same, basically.
It's harder to get down, I think, than most booze. So,
I like that call.
But it might do some good for your system to keep things moving and everything and give your immune system a little boost when you need it most. I'm trying to help you here by giving you that. It's not going to taste very good.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're going to spit it out.
Okay, so now we got draft trivia. So the deal is, if you score 3 out of 5, Connor, you get our social media accounts renamed to Boom or Bust, the Connor Rogers fan account for a week.
The world's highest honor.
And we'll send you some merch when we drop it. We have masks now, apparently, which my mom made for us. So we maybe can get you one of those.
That's awesome.
So just to remind you, only one person has ever gotten a perfect 5 for 5. That was Trevor Sycamore. 3 people tied at 3 for 5, and then Ben Solak at 4 out of 5. Are you ready to go? What do you think you're going to get, first of all?
I'm going to say a 2.
Oh,
Okay,
come on.
so here's the thing.
There's an election going on. My brain is overwhelmed.
That's fair.
I wasn't
fair.
ready
There's
for
a lot
this.
going on.
I'm
So
still unpacking at my new place. Like, I'm
Listen,
not
okay.
feeling good.
I'm
making every excuse in the world. I'm Adam Gase right
Yeah,
now.
it starts
as
early.
The Jet, as the Jet Met fan, I wrote the questions. I don't think they're too hard. I tried to tailor it to you, so you got potential. So number one, who is currently on the roster the longest tenured New York Jet?
Oh, they just traded McClendon.
That would be why I asked this question.
Yeah, so it would have to be Jordan Jenkins.
1 for 1. Bingo.
Wow. Okay.
Hot
Very
start.
quick.
Yep.
All right.
Which he's
2.
been on the team since 2016. That's not impressive at all.
No, it's not good. It's definitely not good.
Question 2. The Jets selected 9 defensive players in the first round between Mark Sanchez, 2009, and Sam Darnold, 2018. Name all 9.
So from Sanchez, you said, till now?
To Darnold.
Just to Darnold.
Okay, let's just work. Well, I know Darren Lee, Leonard Williams, Quinnen Williams, and Jamal Adams are the easy ones.
Quinnen would be after Darnold then.
Oh, so to Darnold. Okay.
To Darnold.
So in between. Okay, I'm just gonna do it this way. So you have Mo Wilkerson.
Yep.
D. Milner.
Yep.
Sheldon Richardson.
Yep.
Quentin Coples.
Oh yeah.
Leonard Williams.
Yep.
Jamal Adams.
Yep.
Darren Lee.
Murder and drill.
So I'm at 7.
Yeah, you're missing.
That's correct.
So I'm missing 2. Okay, I'm gonna need a minute here. God, they always go defense. It's really unbelievable how they continue to do this over and over again. This is gonna kill me. I need to go in order. So since Sanchez, freaking Kyle Wilson.
Yeah, I was gonna say you already mentioned him, so that would have been bad if you didn't get it.
Who I brought up earlier, of course.
So you're missing one. Who I loved. One of my all-time favorite Jets.
I do love to.
He was terrible, but I loved him anyway.
One of your favorite Jets that was terrible.
Yeah. He was really cool. That'll be my hint. He was swagged out there. He was awesome.
Oh, Calvin Pryor.
Oh yeah, it was Calvin Pryor.
Yeah, I thought right away to Rex, and I'm just like, oh, it was Calvin Pryor. Man, that is remarkable how many defensive players they have taken in the first round.
None on the team
and
still.
None of them are good.
No.
Adams is the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's played like 2 games this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
crazy.
You're 2 for 2, man. You're already. I
hit my goal. Can I go now?
No. So number 3, this is kind of on you now. You had a first round grade on 5 wide receivers in 2020. Can you name all 5?
Yes, absolutely. I'll start from where it gets hard. The wild card was Michael Pittman.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Judy Ruggs, CD, and Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
3 out of 5.
So made that harder.
Yeah. It's funny. If you asked me that 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have remembered the 5th one. I was looking at my wide receiver rankings like a week ago. Who was going off? And I was like, Claypool.
Yeah.
I had Claypool in like the 3rd round, which like whatever. He went to the Steelers. Like this, they could draft me and I'd catch 12 passes from them still.
Mm-hmm.
See, I wrote that one because I wasn't sure whether you'd remember Pittman or not. Because I remember you were
quiet
big
year
on
for
Pittman.
him too.
Yeah, he has not done much.
No,
nothing.
Okay, so
sick.
You're still
3.
You're still on track. Still on track. 3 for 3.
Do I get the Twitter thing now?
Yeah,
you do.
You're in.
Yeah, you're going for the.
Okay, so now I'm playing with house money.
Now you're playing with house money.
And merch.
Congratulations.
Don't forget, you get my mom's handmade
This is where
mask.
I thrive.
You get my mom's handmade mask too. Don't forget about that.
The New York Jets are one of 3 teams to be 1-0 in the Super Bowl, win their only Super Bowl appearance. Do you know the other 2?
Ooh. I don't think so. I need to think about this for a second. 1-0.
Both has been this century.
And the other teams are also 1-0.
Yes, they are 1-0.
Wow. That is interesting. Let me think about this one for a minute. God, I really need to. Oh, is it the Bucks
The Bucks are one of them.
That's one.
and the Panthers?
That is
No.
incorrect.
It was in that division, though.
You had it. You were there. It is the New Orleans Saints.
Oh my God, that's right. Because they always lose before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I just assumed they'd bend it. I assumed they'd bend it too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right, I can live with that.
Change.
Thank
Okay.
God.
Thank
God
it's
you
a really
got it
good,
wrong.
really good question.
Because John Ledger's been getting mad at us because the last two have gone 5 out of 5 and 4 out of 5. He's like, man, you guys are making it too easy on them. And I was like, all right, so if you want 5 out of 5, John,
that's a hard question. I
John
just
would have gone on
literally.
me. John
I
would've
only
gone on all
did
of us,
process
yeah.
of elimination. Like I thought back of
the
the last
hardest
10
one.
Super Bowls, and I'm like, okay, all these teams have been in multiples.
Yeah. So this next one, this is my personal favorite that I wrote for you. I do think you're gonna get it, but I just want to see what happens. Take it away.
All right. Question 5. To go 4 out of 5. Who was the last New York Met to get a hit in a postseason game?
Well, it had to be 2016. Oh man, we're counting the play-in game, right?
Yes, we're counting. It is in the wild card game. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I want to make sure you're not bamboozling me here and thinking that
No,
the play-in game doesn't count because some people think it's not a real postseason game.
It is very much the. It is very.
That's
much
That's a hard question. The last Met to get a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's some kind of trick in here. I'm truly just gonna say Asdrubal Cabrera, but like
That is incorrect.
Who is it?
It is Ty Kelly in his one.
Wow, I would never get that ever.
I literally only know it because it was Ty Kelly, and
that
is just a meme.
That is remarkable. He's not even in the. He's not even in the minors anymore.
Off of Madison Bumgarner, pinch hit single in the 8th inning.
I do remember him pinch hitting because I was sitting there and I was like, how the hell, with the season on the line, are we pinch hitting Ty Kelly? Because I hated Ty Kelly.
Yep.
And because he used to hit like 400 in AAA every year, and they'd bring him up and he'd go like 1 for 40 every time.
Yeah, Ty Kelly and Eric Campbell both played in that game. I was there.
Yes.
I was there. I will never forget.
Yeah, Campbell's
Ty Kelly experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh God.
Yep.
Wow. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get that because I do remember the remarkable pinch hit. But God, that was so far out of my mind. That's a good question. I'm happy with 3 out of 5. I overachieved by 1.
Like I said, you get the handmade mask and you'll get the social media accounts changed.
Wait, so the worst? Who got 2 out of 5?
No one.
No one.
Oh wow!
No one
so
has
I hit the
got
threshold.
So far. So
somebody's gonna be a real idiot. And
somebody's gonna bomb.
And tell me when they do so I could tweet at them.
So speaking of that,
you idiot.
Speaking of that, Connor, we like to have people call them out. So you got 3 out of 5, which tied Mike Renner, Austin Gale, and John Ledyard behind the Draft Network guys. Who do you want to call out to come on our show and try to beat your score?
Wow. So you've had both Mr. and Mr. 2-for-1 drafts. And those are all the guys you've had on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Solak, Trevor, Renner, Gale, and Ledyard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Get Danny Kelly.
Danny Kelly would be fun.
Danny would be really good, and Danny has like a wild brain where he'd go at least 4 for 5. So make him difficult.
Okay.
Make him real difficult.
All right, we got that.
Yeah, get Danny on. Let's mix up the outlets a little bit.
Love it. Connor, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was a lot of fun.
Of course, guys. That was a blast. We'll do it again. I'll hopefully have a 40 time for you. And,
definitely.
Yeah,
close to the draft. Once we all run again, I'll get my weight up a little bit on the bench press. We'll do it again.
Yeah, a couple of protein shakes. I think you could get 5 reps of 135 by the spring. I'm feeling pretty good about it. We're not going to put 225 on the bar and have you die. We're not doing that. Yeah, but you can bench more than you weigh. You'll be fine.
I don't know,
This
man.
is more faith in me than anybody.
It's November. It's November. It's bulking season. You'll be good. Don't worry.
Hey,
All
right, I'll take it.
And then listen, what you do is you run your 40 now because you're very light, and then you clock in your 40 time, and then you put on 15 pounds of muscle for your bench, and you're all good. You'll be fine.
No, that's not fair. We gotta do it all at once. Like
All right, fair enough. All right, guys.
Just let it happen.
Make sure to follow Connor on Twitter at Connor J. Rogers. And, of course, follow us, too, at Boomer Bust Draft. So for PJ Clark, Tate Sigworth, and Connor Rogers, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.